Hello and welcome to my first YouTube video. I've been wanting to start this, thinking about starting it for a while, on my journey in Mounjaro, down under. I don't have a particularly Ocker accent, sorry about that if you're looking for Australian sounding content. I mostly watch UK and US YouTubers on the topic of Mounjaro. In the US, I know that it's Zepbound for weight loss and Mounjaro for diabetes management. We don't have that distinction in Australia, we just have Mounjaro. I know that sometimes people talk about tirzepatide, which is the underlying drug, obviously. I believe in the US they talk about that as a compound. We do have compounding in Australia, but not that I've seen for brand name drugs. So things like Ozempic, that I believe that there was some compounding in pharmacies in a different state to where I am, but there was a crackdown on that, people getting in trouble for that. So I've not heard anything about that for Mounjaro. So just to be clear, I'm on Mounjaro. I've written some little notes for myself so that I don't get distracted by rambling, because I can ramble, I can chat. Basically, I've been wanting to start this channel because at the beginning of taking Mounjaro, I realized that I'd never hit the maintenance part of a weight loss plan, diet, whatever you want to call it, ever. And I have been on every diet that I can think of. I've been dieting. I remember being on Weight Watchers and counting points at the age of 11 or 12. I remember doing fitness videos at the age of 9. It's always been something that I really struggled with, and I, at the beginning of 2018, I had lost a lot of weight on keto. I got down to about 62 kilos. For reference, I'm 75 at the moment. I've lost 14 kilos in about 21 weeks on Mounjaro. I got to that point on keto, and then went through a series of personal and work issues, went through a really trying time, doing a really long trial and didn't see the sun for 2 weeks, and so obviously there was all the takeaway and the stress, etc. And then I had started a new medication at that point. It was interacting with another medication. So anyway, I put on 16 kilos in 3 months. 3 months is still bad, not 3 weeks, but it's still bad. And then I just continued to put on, and it ended up being about 20 kilos by the end of 2018 that I had put on, and I just continued to put on and put on and put on. So yeah, so I put on the 20-ish kilos that year. After the 16 kilos in 3 months, it just continued to go up. I ended up getting up to last year, I believe it was, about 95 kilos. And Mounjaro is the 4th weight loss drug that I've tried. I started on phentermine, which is, I was told by the doctor, essentially speed, and it definitely felt like that in terms of heart palpitations. I didn't see a huge difference on that one. I did lose some weight, but I have anxiety, so the heart palpitations on top of that was just too much. I then went on to Ozempic very briefly. This was around the time that, I had started on it just before it became kind of mainstream in the media, and supply became really hard to get. So all it did was make me nauseous. I didn't have any of the hunger suppression or appetite suppression, and there was really intermittent supply that I could get, and I just kind of got to the point after a couple of months where I was not able to get it every week. It's a 4 doses in 1 pen, similar to Mounjaro, but there were times where I couldn't get it for 2 or 3 weeks, and so I thought, what's the point in paying this money and injecting this drug when I am not actually able to take it consistently? So I stopped that, and it was probably about a year before I went then onto Contrave. I just really wanted to get rid of the food noise. As I said, I was about 95 kilos. I started to go down naturally, probably keto again and Weight Watchers and things like that, but I couldn't get below 90 kilograms. I just couldn't do it. And so I went to speak to my doctor. They recommended Contrave, didn't recommend Mounjaro, and I think that's because they recommended as a potential something I could try was Ascender, and they told me that was more expensive than Ozempic, and I just thought, no, I'll leave that, which is probably why they didn't tell me about Mounjaro, because it's far more expensive. Not in the first initial month on the 2.5 milligram dose, but later on. So I took Contrave. I was able to get below 90 kilos. Is that right? No, I couldn't get below 95 because when I started Mounjaro, it was 89.3. So I couldn't get below the 95. Lost that with the Contrave, and then I have a friend who was speaking to me about potentially going on Mounjaro because she had seen another YouTuber's video, Lady Marwa, by the way. I will link her in the description. She's fantastic. As I said, I'm on week 21, I think, or potentially 22. As of a couple of days ago, but she has tracked her journey from week 1, including all the side effects, her weight on Renfo scales, which I have as well, which are fantastic, by the way. I think they're fantastic. Take the measurements with a grain of salt, but yes, for tracking, they're really great. This friend saw this video by Lady Marwa and called me, and because she knew that I'd been on Ozempic and had questions about it. And then she went on it the next day, and I started to look into it. Not the next day, sorry. She ordered the script the next day through an online pharmacy, which we do have in Australia, but they're more expensive than just going to your doctor and getting a script. So I looked more into Mounjaro. I looked at Lady Marwa, and I ended up, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks after my friend started, I started on it as well, and it has been the best decision I've ever made. I've lost 14 kilos in that time. I titrated up the doses fairly quickly, not because I felt like I had to, in terms of, 4 weeks on one and then go up and up and up, and but it was more that I did feel the effects for the first 4 or 5 weeks. I think the maximum number of weeks that I was on a particular dosage was 6 weeks, and then I could feel that the effects had worn off. My body had gotten used to it. So I'm now on 12.5 milligrams, but I've been on that for between 8 and 10 weeks. I wish that I had tracked it more carefully so that I could actually, I could know how many weeks I've been on that. But I am really enjoying the 12.5 at the moment, and that wearing off of the hunger suppression and the inhibition of the food noise and things like that hasn't worn off for me yet. So fingers crossed. I'm going to delay going up to the 15 milligrams for as long as possible. There's another YouTuber I watch called Countess of Shopping. I'll link her as well, and she looks at a lot of studies and breaks them down for people. And she has talked about rotating the injection sites when you're seeing that efficacy kind of wane. So I will do that. I think that's the plan. Once the 12.5 starts to wear off, then I might start injecting every 6 days. I just want to delay getting to that 15 milligrams for as long as possible because that is the highest dose. I could split pens, but I don't want to. I think that would be a bit dangerous. In terms of dose splitting, I do that now. In terms of cost efficiency of pens, I've got my pen right here. This is a 15 milligram, but I'm on the 12.5. I just count the clicks. If you have any questions about that, you can look it up, but you can also ask me in the comments. Each pen has 60 clicks. So I pretty much went from a 2.5 to, I think I went to a 10. If not, I just went straight to the 15, and not in terms of the dosage that I was taking, but in terms of the pens that I was buying, because here, I know at one point in Australia, you could get vials. You won't be able to get that now until August. 31st of August is the soonest that vials will come into Australia again. And so I've lost my train of thought again. But basically, each pen has 60 clicks, and I've just kind of done the dose splitting that way. There is, if you haven't heard about it, the 5th dose or the golden dose. I do use that as well. But lately I found the injections, even though it's the same thickness of needle, I found them really painful. So I have a 5th dose left in another pen, but I injected with this one last night, a brand new one, because I just couldn't deal with the pain and I couldn't be bothered to find numbing cream and stuff like that. So Anyway, so that's where I'm at now in terms of my journey, if you will. I've got to say, for those thinking about it, do it. It's obviously speak to your doctor first, but I have no regrets in doing it. I do regret maybe not doing those rotation of injection sites like Countess Shopping did. That's what I was thinking before. Another reason I don't want to go up past the 15 milligrams is she has been on it for the 15 milligram dose for over a year. You can probably hear my dogs playing now. Anyway, they're noisy. And she can't go on up any further. And so she's basically waiting for more medication to come out. There's retatrutide, that's retatrutide, I think it is, that's coming. So she's kind of waiting for that and waiting for the Mounjaro 2.0. Retatrutide is made by Eli Lilly, which is the same company that makes Mounjaro. That apparently has, she's looked at the studies as well. She has videos on it if you want to check it out. Very informative. And that is basically the Mounjaro 2.0. So she's waiting for that. And I don't want to get to a point where I have gone up to the highest dose and then I am stalling and there's nowhere that I can go. And I don't want to split the pens in that way to make it a higher dose than is currently recommended by the manufacturer. There haven't been any studies on going above the 15 milligrams, so just potentially not safe. I just rather play it safe. So in terms of what I'm doing day to day, and what I would say to people is that it's not a one-stop shop. It's not a quick fix. You just have to put the work in. I had been calorie counting. I was about to pick up my phone, but I'm recording on my phone, but I've been calorie counting something like 130 days, I think, is my streak on MyFitnessPal, and I just use the free version. And there's a way to track protein with that, so I concentrate on protein. I'm trying to not have more than 1,500 calories a day. I do notice if I go below that, like 1,400, that yes, the weight loss is faster, but I would rather do it more slowly to maintain muscle mass, bone density. I have arthritis already, so I don't want to increase that. It's osteo, just to be clear. And I found you do need that consistency in terms of tracking, and in terms of food noise and hunger suppression and things like that, appetite suppression rather. I do notice that it is much easier to calorie count, but it's still needed. So if I had been, which I've again tried calorie counting so many times in the past without Mounjaro, and I found that it's very difficult. I'm thinking about food all the time. I feel very restricted by myself because it's self-imposed, and then I get into a self-sabotage effort eating mode. And once I've gone off the rails in terms of, had a bad food day, I just then have a bad food week and a bad food month and a bad food quarter. And this has been so much easier. There have been times where I've been feeling frustrated, and I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago and thinking about starting this channel earlier because I was feeling like I was not going to go off the rails, and my dog's chasing one of the cats. Not that I was going off the rails, but I was feeling restricted, and I was feeling like I was kind of close to throwing in the towel in terms of calorie counting. And I did used to feel like that when I wasn't on Mounjaro. I was think, oh, can I just have one day without calorie counting? Can I just have, a weekend or something like that? And that's when I would start to go off the rails. So I'm probably bringing this filming forward a little bit because I am starting to feel like that. I'm not feeling like that so much this last week, but I certainly was in the couple of weeks prior. And so again, lost my train of thought. So, and I finished my notes, so I think I'm just going to stop it there. If you have any questions, this will probably not even get watched by anyone. It'll probably just go out into the ether. But if it doesn't, and if you have questions, either if you're on Mounjaro or thinking about going on Mounjaro, or another weight loss drug, Ozempic, I will say that I think that the weight loss for me has been slower on Mounjaro because I was on Ozempic before that. Mounjaro obviously has the extra hormone in it, the GIP, not just the GLP-1 as does Ozempic, but I was also pre-diabetic at a time a few years ago. So I think that studies, according to the research done by Countess of Shopping, thank you, studies show that diabetics and pre-diabetics do lose weight more slowly, and I think being on, having had that and then having been on Ozempic before, I think it has definitely slowed it down. So, but if you have any questions about any of the weight loss drugs that I've mentioned today, or if you, tonight, because it's nighttime, if you have any questions about, you know, where to get supply or what questions to ask your doctor, things like that, I'm more than happy to help. I'm hoping that, I don't think that there are too many YouTube channels in Australia that talk about Mounjaro. I could be completely wrong. I might go and look it up after this and realize that there are hundreds, but it's something that, you know, Ozempic gets a bad rap in the media, and yes, there are people who are abusing it. There are people who are below the required BMI to be using these drugs and that are doing it just to get rid of a few kilos. That is not, for me, from my point of view, my opinion, that's not worth it in terms of the potential side effects, because there are potential side effects and that's something that you should discuss with your doctor. But for me, having been pre-diabetic, knowing that I've got insulin resistance issues, having struggled with my weight my whole life, and knowing as well now that high insulin and insulin resistance they do affect the fetus during pregnancy, and that is something that my partner and I are looking at doing in the next couple of years. Knowing that that would pass down this obesity gene, if you will, to my children, I don't want to do that. I've struggled with it my whole life. I don't want to pass that down to another generation. So that was the big driver for me in terms of losing weight. Now that I've lost the 14 kilos, I feel so much more comfortable. I do have about 10 that I want to get down on. I'm thinking about maybe trying to lose another 15, because I know that when I get to the maintenance and I'm starting to titrate down the doses, that I probably will put on weight and that food noise will come back. The hunger will come back. I've definitely felt that towards the end of the week once the injection is starting to wear off. So I know that I have some way to go to make sure that I'm in a position in the future going forward where I'm not having those issues anymore and passing them down. So I've rambled. I said I would ramble. I'm going to look at potentially editing this to match videos together and cut out my ums and ahs. But again, if there are any questions, please let me know, and I will link you to those YouTubers that I mentioned, Lady Marwa, Countess of Shopping. Having thought of that, there's also another YouTuber that I watch who's actually a doctor, Dr. Emma Anders. I'll link her as well. She's just come out with another video about body composition, which I was listening to before I started filming this, and everything that she does is factual, based on science, and it's coming from a doctor who used to prescribe these medications. So she's wonderful, but I think she's an anomaly in terms of the amount of weight that she's been able to lose. She's stayed on the 2.5 milligrams, and I think that that's very rare. There will be people out there, of course, that can stay on that lower dose. It wasn't me, sadly. I was hoping it would be, but it was not. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Au revoir, à la prochaine fois. Bonne nuit, if you're going to bed. And maybe see you next time if this doesn't go out into the ether.